My name is Sarah Callaghan. I'm in business administration, which I've been doing for a few years now, since school. And I've suffered from anxiety my entire life since I was 5 years old. Outgoing. I really like being around people. I'd like to say I'm a really good friend. I care a lot about people, maybe too much, who knows. And I love animals. I'm just an animal lover. There we go. Third good thing. I live with my boyfriend, and I have for the past 2 years, along with his family. We've been together for 4 years, and it's an incredibly happy and loving relationship, which is awesome. Other than that, I like to do yoga, meditation, walking, hanging out with friends as much as I can. Other than that, I stay in bed and I watch TV and get some quiet time, which I really enjoy. I enjoy having my alone time when I'm not hanging out with everyone. My parents broke up before I was 1 year old, which is fine. People always try to give me a sympathetic vote for that, but I don't mind. Never really knew them together and can't imagine it would have been a good thing. And so that was okay, but I always had difficulties with a stepmother growing up. My stepmom was, I guess, jealous because I was my dad's only daughter, so I was kind of the number one girl in his life kind of thing. So I don't know, I think there was always a little bit of competition there. Now that I'm older, we're really good friends, but when I was a kid it was really difficult because I didn't know how she felt about me. So it was just a lot of bickering and hating. And other than that, I lived with my mum and my brother was 5 years older than me. The age difference made it quite difficult the older we got. As we became teenagers, we weren't friends anymore. Like when you're kids, you can just get along with anyone and stuff. But once we were teenagers, there was too many differences and we stopped being friends, which was hard. So once he moved out when he was 19, it was just me and my mum. And that was from year 8 onwards. And that was okay. But my mum also has her issues like OCD and everything. So over the years, I kind of had to learn how to deal with her little things that she liked having done a particular way, which was okay with me. I didn't really notice all the things she liked having done particular ways until I had a friend move in the senior years, and then I was like, oh shit, there's so many things that I have to tell my friend, don't do this, make sure you do this, make sure you sit this a certain way, don't do this. It was really difficult, and I guess it was really stressful living with my mum. So I moved out pretty soon after school. I moved out the year afterwards and moved in with my boyfriend. So I don't know, it was kind of stressful growing up in my house because everyone had their own issues that you kind of had to tiptoe around, which was difficult, but I still look at my childhood and everything like a happy experience. They did support me very much. Everyone in my family has their own mental illness, so I wasn't different or weird, or they didn't really try to say, no, you don't have this, because they had their own stuff, so it was okay. My mum, during my during high school, I became very sick from my anxiety. And at the time we didn't know it was my anxiety making me sick. So I probably spent 3 or so years going to many doctors, them trying to diagnose what was wrong, when after time went on, I kind of realised myself it was anxiety. And after I told Mum that, she was very supportive. She was like, okay, well, that's fine, we can handle this. And we started seeing psychiatrists and psychologists, which I'm happy with. I'm happy to talk to people. I'd like to do that. And my dad, once I opened up to him about my anxiety, he thought about his mental health too. And I'd been seeing a psychologist for a while, and then he decided he would see someone too, and turned out he'd been suffering from bipolar probably his whole life and never really knew about it. So everyone's pretty supportive. My dad paid for many years of counselling for me so I could feel okay and get along with my life. So yeah, supportive environment, very much so. Starting high school weirdly enough, starting high school wasn't a huge issue for me. Like, I was excited to get out of primary school. Primary school sucked. Like, when I was in primary school, when I look back on primary school, when I was a kid, I thought everyone didn't like me. I thought I had no friends and I was the biggest loser. But having the information I have now, I know that was just my anxiety talking when I was a kid. I had heaps of friends. Everyone in my class liked me and I liked everyone else. We all got along, but for some reason in my head, I thought I was such a loner. So I was very excited to get out. So starting high school wasn't an issue. I was very excited. I was pumped. I guess actually getting into it though, in the first couple of years, that was difficult. Picking your friends and everything, that was a difficult, long road because you don't really make the right friends straight away, and then you end up getting into difficult situations and the wrong fights and the wrong people, and it made my anxiety a lot worse come year 8. Eventually I had to move schools because I just got mixed up in all this bad stuff, and my anxiety just took over my life because I'd gotten so caught up in what you do in year 7 and 8, which is who are my friends and blah blah blah. Like, it was crazy. So it was a bit hard, but actually starting school I was like very keen. I technically am happy to be out of high school, but that's not because I didn't like it. I did enjoy high school. I attended 2 high schools, so year 7 and 8, and starting in 9 I attended a Catholic school, and between year 9 and 12 I attended a public school. And if I look back on the private school experience, like the Catholic school, it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. I hated it there. And I'm really glad I left. And once I came to the public school, it got a lot easier for me. Like, I still had my issues and everything, but like, it was a much happier experience for me. The classes were easier for me. They were just more my speed than the private schools were. And the people were nicer. Like, it was like, in private schools, they really shelter you from issues. No one ever spoke of depression, anxiety. They never mentioned anything about gays or bisexuals or lesbians, nothing, ever. Like, I never knew anything about that. It was only till I came to a public school where I realised that was okay. Like, that was really awful. So I'm glad I went to a public school. Like, that school gave me a really good high school experience. But no, it was good. I am happy with the high school experience I had, but I'm also pretty happy to be out, to be honest. I don't think there was anything, I can't really recall any times where the school themselves helped me with my anxiety. I mean, they weren't bad about it, don't get me wrong. Like, if I had really bad panic attacks and I went paralysed and I got pulled into the office like unconscious, or I had to get ambulances called because I was already paralysed or I was freaking out, you know, they didn't treat it badly. They definitely didn't judge me for it. They definitely knew what they were doing, but like, I never really got that extra help, which would have been nice, like having a school counsellor to talk to about my anxiety. I saw someone once there, but he just said, "No, you're fine. It's okay." And that was about it. And I was like, okay then, but I kind of felt like I needed it. So it would have been nice having someone easier to relate to rather than some, you know, 50-year-old dude sitting behind a desk going, yep, you're all right. You can go to class now, you know. Someone a bit more relatable and easier to open up to would have been nice in school, but I still made it through, so. I was incredibly worried about leaving school around that time. Like, mainly my biggest issue was I had no idea what I wanted to do, and to be honest, I've only just started figuring it out. I'm 21 years old, I left school 3 years ago, and I literally only just started realising what I want to do with my life. And that's okay, but God, in school that was terrifying. Everyone was telling you, you've got to know where you want to go, you have to go to university, you have to go to TAFE, you have to go do this, you have to have a job, and it was all too much. Like, I was just in school, like, so that was really, really frustrating. It was horrible. Yeah. I didn't necessarily pick what I wanted to do when I came out of school. I just picked something that I could start with, which was a course in business administration. It was kind of like a stepping stone. Like, I didn't know where my path was going to lead, but I was like, that's a good place to start. And it's gotten me like a couple years of experience in it, and it's been really nice, and I really like the job. Like, it's not what I want to do forever, but when I was in high school, like, I kind of thought that's what you needed to do. You needed to pick right away, and you needed to do it right away. Whatever it was you wanted to do forever, you needed to start it then and there. But so I thought that would have been the hard part, you know, picking what I wanted to do right away. But after like a year or two went on, I kind of started realizing I do have a lot of time. Like, I have a lot of time. It's okay. I don't have to rush into whatever this thing is that I'm going to do forever. I think I'm most proud of how far I have come with my anxiety. Like 3 years ago, say when I was in high school, on average I probably suffered from panic attacks every 2 weeks, maybe, on average. Depended on, you know, what was going on in my life, but in the past 3 years since school, I've had at least a year and a half of really good psychologists' help, and I've learned a lot about myself and a lot about my mental illness and a lot how to handle it. I've been able to learn so much about myself. I can manage myself so much better now that I probably only suffer from a panic attack maybe twice a year, if that. I feel like I can control myself a lot better now than I was in the past, and that was the worst thing, not being able to control myself back then, because I didn't know what my thoughts were. So I'm really proud that I do know what my thoughts are now. We're definitely all still learning all the time. Like, I don't know, I guess I don't think there's a particular point where you can say I'm a grown-up. I think it's when you get really, really old and like you're grey and everything, and you kind of just like, oh shoot, I was already a grown-up and that time has totally passed and now I'm old. Like, I don't think there's ever a time where you're just like, oh, I'm a grown-up, because, I don't know, life's going to go by really fast, but who knows what's going to come in the next like 10 years or so. In 10 years I could be like, oh damn, I'm such a grown-up, but who knows. I don't know if that means I'm going to have a house or I'm going to have kids or a husband or what that means, but like, I don't think there's an age gap, or there could be goals to hit before you're a grown-up, but I don't know what those are yet. We'll see. If I could speak to my younger self, I would tell myself to go and learn about anxiety as much as I could, and more importantly to be self-aware of what my anxiety was like, because it's not necessarily the same for every single person, but learning about the mental illness itself helps a lot, because being in the shadows about it makes it 10 times more terrifying than what it is when you know what's going on. When you know what's going on, you can kind of piece together why you're feeling how you're feeling, and it kind of really helps the situation. So yeah, if I was talking to myself, I would say, go and see that psychologist, go and learn about anxiety. And I would even tell myself to pick up yoga and meditation, you know, learn to relax, because you need, like when I was in high school, I was completely doing something all the time, 24/7. I never gave myself time to stop and relax, and you need that, because, you know, when you're anxious all the time, it builds up until you explode, and I exploded every 2 weeks because I never gave myself that time. So I'd say sit down, chill, learn about your stuff, and go see someone maybe. Yeah. I don't know, I guess my love for everyone else. My name is Sarah Callaghan, and I experience anxiety, always have, and I'm doing really good. The best I ever have in my life, and I'm really proud of myself.